Winning Blueprint presents.
5 minutes or less. Oakland Raiders.
Welcome, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the Oakland Raiders in 5 minutes or less. Got 5 minutes on the clock. Let's get started. So, the high point of the season for the Oakland Raiders. You could easily point to Week 3 versus the Steelers, that 34-31 win against the Steelers as the high point of the season for the Oakland Raiders. I mean, let's face it. When do the Raiders beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? Just doesn't happen that often. But that's not the high point of the season. That distinction goes to a 2-week stretch, Week 7 and 8, when the Raiders won 2 consecutive games. Week 7, they were able to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 26-23. And in Week 8, they were able to get their only road victory of the season versus the Kansas City Chiefs 26-16. So a 2-game winning streak, Week 7 and 8 are your high point of the season because it gave the Raiders something that they didn't have for the majority of that season. Hope. Those 2 wins breathe life into a dying season for the Raiders. And so for that brief moment, the Raiders maybe were on to something, which leads us into the low point of the season. And the low point for me is that very next week after that 2-game winning streak. It's Week 9. The Raiders started the season 1-4. And now a 2-game winning streak has you knocking on the door of 500. You're at 3-4 in the season with a hot, surging Tampa Bay Buccaneers team coming to Oakland. This Week 9 matchup pits 2 teams on winning streaks. One of these 2 teams is going to leave this game feeling like, hey, we can make a run at the postseason. The other team is going to leave this game and go into a shell. Which team was it going to be? The Raiders had an opportunity to do something big and really turn the fortunes of their season around in this football game. Well, 42 points later by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Raiders were in that shell. 5 games after that loss to Tampa Bay, 42-32, the Raiders were in a 6-game losing streak. So that, to me, is the low point of the season. That Week 9 loss when you felt like you were turning the corner. And it doesn't take much for Raider Nation to really get juiced up and revved up. And that 2-game winning streak had them thinking, hey, maybe we can turn it around. Maybe we can make something of this season. And the Buccaneers quickly squashed all hope for the Oakland Raiders in the 2012 season. So now we look at free agency activity for the Oakland Raiders. Simple. Minimal. When you're broke, you're broke. There's not much you can do about that. All you can do if you're the Raiders is continue to clean up the books. Look, Al Davis left you a mess. And he didn't leave you any napkins or paper towels or mops to clean this mess up with. So you have to do it on your own. And so that's what your new front office has been trying to do. Clean up these books. And so continue to do that. You got a couple of free agents, Philip Wheeler and Desmond Bryant, that you probably want to re-sign. Re-sign those guys. Right now, you're $4.5 million over the cap. You don't have a lot of money to play with. So do what you can, but continue to build this team through the draft. State of the fan base. Look, Raider Nation is always going to be one that is loyal to their team. But for me, it's lukewarm. Because the Raiders and their fans are starting to become numb to losing. And anytime you start doing that, you have a problem. You never want your fan base to get used to losing. And that's what the Raiders are starting to do to their fans. Get them accustomed to losing. Now look, you're in a different direction. You've got your new head coach, Dennis Allen. He's come in. And you don't really know what direction you're going in right now. But I tell you what, you just need to follow him blindly. You can't continue to keep switching head coaches and keep switching different personnel around. Keep your head coach. Keep this direction that you're going in. See where it leads you. If you're the Raiders and you're that fan base, you have hope. If McFadden can stay healthy, if you can continue to get your books right, if you can continue to draft well, maybe you could be on to something in the next 2-3 seasons. We'll see. But that sound in the background means that's the Oakland Raiders in 5 minutes or less.
Oakland Raiders. 5 minutes or less.